But before the age of printing, it wasn't a simple thing to get something to read. First, rice paper was placed over text carved into a tablet. Then the scholars would carefully stamp ink onto the paper. After peeling it off, they would have a negative copy of the text, which they would then roll up and pack away for the long trip home. A lot of trouble to go through to get your favorite manuscript. They came for copies of the work of the famous calligraphers, or for this dictionary of how to read old seal script characters, a kind of Chinese Rosetta Stone. But mostly they came to copy the writings of a single humble teacher who lived in the 5th century BC, Confucius. This sage's ideas about man's role in society, his relation to his family, friends, and ruler became the cornerstone of the imperial system. The essence of the philosophy expressed in the writings of Confucius was simply respect for established authority as a condition of peace and prosperity. Mastery of these writings was the only avenue to wealth, position, and power in traditional China. And so the Chinese ruling elite wasn't made up of generals, priests, and nobles, but of mandarins. To become a mandarin, you had to pass the rigorous imperial exams. The sons of upper-class Chinese families had to begin to prepare for these exams as soon as they were old enough to use a pair of chopsticks, memorizing and learning to reproduce the Confucian texts automatically, vividly, and in detail. Examinees would descend by the thousands to the imperial examination halls here in Nanjing, where just a few exam cells remain. Up until the last century, there were thousands upon thousands of exam cells here, covering a huge area. And here the examinees were tested on one subject only. The Chinese imperial examination system tested knowledge of these Confucian texts, and success or failure in that oldest of all civil service exams determined one's career in the Chinese imperial bureaucracy. Examinees would spend days writing down the classics from memory, eating and sleeping in their cells. Of course, sometimes their memories failed them, and the cheat sheet was born. Those who passed became mandarins. With this high office came power, wealth, and lots of paperwork. Mandarins spent most of their lives writing documents, often in multiple copies, in the square, official, regular script. So how was the art of calligraphy born out of this stiff official writing? Well, these scholars, being human, had to occasionally escape the Confucian rigidity of their official lives. So they were attracted to another philosophy that was the opposite, yet the complement of Confucianism. Taoism, a philosophy that was to profoundly influence the art of the mandarins. The Chinese philosophy of Taoism stresses man's relationship to nature, appealing to the artistic side of humankind. The Tao, or the Way, is the unseen reality behind appearances, the balanced cosmic flow of all things. The first aim of the Chinese artist was to express the perfect harmony of this unseen reality. In their heads Confucian, but in their hearts Taoist, mandarins would escape to relax and write poetry in nature, or if that wasn't possible, in a garden. And in the year 323 AD, that's just what 7 of these scholar officials did, gathering here on the side of a small stream at the Orchid Pavilion, the sacred shrine of Chinese calligraphy. These scholars were escaping from their highly structured official lives, relaxing, waxing lyrical, enjoying a cup of wine to loosen their inhibitions, and having philosophical discussions on the banks of this tiny stream. They were among the first of a long and honored tradition of drunken poets. One scholar was always accompanied by a servant carrying a bottle of wine and a spade with which to dig the scholar's grave. He declared, "To a drunken man, the affairs of this world appear as so much duckweed in the river." After which he floated a cup of wine down the stream to his friend, Wang Xishe, a man who had no idea that he would be revered for all time by the Chinese as the father of calligraphy. In line with Taoist philosophy, the Mandarins looked to nature for inspiration. So, while Wang Xishe, a writer of the formal official script, sat meditating, his inspiration arrived with a honk. He was distracted by the natural flowing movements of geese in the pond, movements which he copied with his brush. And so the beautiful flowing grass script was born, raising calligraphy to an abstract art form. His characters, light as a floating cloud, vigorous as a startled dragon, were very different from those of the square, clearly defined official script. Wang Xishe's work is treasured not so much because of what was written, but in how the characters were written. His style embodies the Taoist concept of yin and yang, of everything containing in itself its opposite.
The word you write with this brush, there must be yin-yang. This is Taoist. Yin and yang. Horizontal stroke must be thin. Yin. Yin. This is yin. The yang is always thick and yin are always thin. Yang is yang. Yin, yang, yin.
Likewise, in Chinese painting, the concept of yin-yang can be found hidden in the composition. Neighboring trees have a guest-host relationship, the host large and protective, the guest smaller and more modest in bearing. This host-guest principle can be applied to the relation of rock to rock, mountain to mountain, or man to man. So great calligraphy or painting must have this sense of balance, of yin and yang, which the Mandarins so treasured.
This is